what I wanted to do today is like go through a little bit of a personal journey of mine and where did I come across the word exponential and why is the source of where it came from very important, and also lay the role for where are we going to go next. You know, many years ago, and I'm not telling when, I'll tell you, I left India in 1983, and I decided that I was never going to come back here. When I left, I was happy to leave. I just felt this was a place that was questioning too much. It was like, to be a good girl, do this, do that, don't stand, don't sit. I felt very constricted. I felt everybody was telling me, you ask too many questions, you're not, just follow the rules, and why do you ask why for everything? And then I went to America, I went to Portland State, and I found that the very things I was criticized for here, and everybody loved it there. And they loved the fact that I was questioning. They loved the fact that I didn't toe the line. They loved the fact that I was dark. And here everybody would say, if you were only a little fair, it would have been really good to find a boy. Whereas I went to Portland, Oregon, which is 92% white people, and they were all like, oh, you have such a beautiful tan. And I got to say, my generations worked on this. And it didn't come easy, you know. It just opened my eyes to a new way of looking at the world. And then I landed up at a company that was started by these three gentlemen. Gordon, Bob, and Andy were on first name basis with people in Silicon Valley in those days. And so I went to Intel, and they were icons in Silicon Valley. Of course, I went to Intel because I couldn't find a job anywhere else. I just wanted to make some money and move to LA and be an actress. That was my thing. And that they paid really well. Within 2 days, they gave me a job, so I went there. And then I got to know these people. And what I realized that this man in particular, Gordon Moore, actually laid the foundation for everything that we take for granted today. And he had the insight in the 60s. Now, a lot of us weren't even born at that time, not us. You weren't born in those times. And he said in the 60s, when they started Intel, they observed something. And then he had a very bold observation and prediction. So what he said was that the computing power is going to double every 18 months. Very simple statement, right? What it did to our behavior was that if the computing power was going to double every 18 months, the design of the chip is going to start today. We have no idea if it's really going to double or not. But it takes you a year and a half to build a fabrication lab that costs $1 billion to be ready for this technology you're predicting is going to happen 18 months. So if you waited for 18 months, made sure the technology happened and built, you lose another 18 months in the factory. So we had to take a decision today that it will double in 18 months, spend $1 billion, build the fab, and tell our designers that design something that will double in 18 months so that the whole process technology people were ready to work on the materials that will allow more and more design to get on a chip that's getting smaller and smaller. So by the time this cycle is over in 18 months, the factory was ready to manufacture it. Now just think about it for a second. How much of unintuitive that behavior is. You are expecting to be somewhere and spending $1 billion today. You're not saying, okay, I'll build one room of the fab, and when I know it happened, I'll build the other rooms. You have to behave as though it's going to happen, and you build it today. So even if you slip by a month or two, you're way ahead of everybody else. And that's how Intel kept up their leadership position year after year after year. And then we had to do something like Intel Insight to not be commoditized. There's various things they did which were very, very, and even then when we did Intel Insight, we didn't say, okay, let's spend $1 million and let's see if it'll work or not. I think they set aside like $100 million right up front and said, let's go all out. Everybody has to know Intel is inside this computer. Whatever it takes, just do it. So that is what an exponential behavior, exponential growth, understanding of exponential does to you is that you do very unintuitive things today, expecting it to happen way out into the future. We aren't that far off when the computing power equals the power of human brain. It's going to be pretty soon. As we come toward the end, I'll tell you why this shouldn't scare us, because there is one thing we have that a machine can never have, and I'll come to it toward the end. So here is a machine, here is our technology around us catching up to the human brain very quickly. So that was one iconic thing that has happened, that statement. The other thing is, how will everybody understand what this means, exponential means? Charles and Ray Eames made this movie in the 70s, in 77 I think, called Powers of 10. What it shows is a woman just lying down. So on the left-hand side, you see 10 meters. It's a family lying down on a mat for picnic. And it just increases every frame by 10, exponentially 10. And literally within 26 or 27 steps, you go from the couple lying down on the mat all the way to the galaxy. Then you come back down and you go inside the skin, and another 20 steps probably or so, you go all the way down to the smallest atom there is. So means within 40 steps or 45 steps or whatever, you've gone from the smallest atom to the largest possible outer life out there. So that gives you a sense of what exponential means. If you walk 30 linear paces, you cover 30 meters. But then if you take 30 exponential steps, you go around the world 26 times. That is the power of exponential thinking. You have to be very unreasonable to take advantage of this behavior. You have to spend huge amounts now, take huge risks now, expecting something to happen and be prepared for it not to happen and fail. That's the only way innovation has happened in this world, over and over again. You look at anybody, you look at Apple, you look at Intel, you look at Google, you look at Facebook, you look at any of them. They all did something very unintuitive, went all the way when nobody believed in them. We all remember at least huge computers. I mean, I remember in IIT feeding my punch cards into a machine and like something would come out. We'd sleep all night long in the lab to get this output and find out we made a mistake and punch cards again and put it in. And now the entire processing power of all those machines combined is in my little phone today. And the size, these, from the size of a car to everything is this, it's not even visible anymore. That's what technology around us is happening. And then the first commercial GPS receiver in 1981, you can see it weighed 53 pounds. It cost over $100,000. And today, when we are in a car, what do? We just open our phones, we look at maps, and on our cars there is GPS, and these receivers are getting smaller and smaller, getting cheaper and cheaper. So something that costs over $100,000 is something what my 13-year-old takes for granted today. He doesn't care about going to any new city. He just knows he can find his way. And now, digital camera. I mean, how many of you, now be honest, how many of you in this room have ever taken a selfie? Okay, put your hands up. I know everybody has taken a selfie, right? So, but imagine, there was nothing called a selfie, like even 10 years ago. Nobody even understood this. This whole pose was something weird. If somebody did that on a road, we thought it was weird. And this is what a digital camera looked like. And today, it's a tiny piece which is part of a phone that you don't even know that it's inside of. And all this have happened literally in the last 20 to 30 years. It's in our lifetime. And I know everybody in this room, except a few, it happened in our lifetime. Now, we can look at this as a threat or an opportunity. It is predicted in the next 10 years that 40% of the Fortune 500 companies are not going to exist. One thing we do know about predictions is that life happens actually much faster than it's predicted. And so if the prediction is 40%, who knows, maybe 60% of the Fortune 500 companies would go away. Even if 20% go away, it's a huge disruption. So do we need to worry about it or not? Here are a few quick examples. We all knew Kodak moment. It's like bread and butter. There was a Kodak moment. 1996, which is much after I started at Intel, Kodak was a formidable company to deal with, 140,000 employees. And literally by 2012, it went bankrupt. And Instagram, with 13 employees, was bought for $1 billion. No revenues. That is disruption. An iconic company that you grew up with disappears. And guys who weren't, I think they were born in 87 or something like that, if I remember, Kevin and Mark. So, people who weren't even born at the time when Kodak was a, culture have come and wiped out an entire industry. And we all know, we are staying in these hotels, we all are in hotel businesses, and we know that they are, valuable businesses. 8.4 billion, market cap, 4 billion in revenue. And here is Airbnb, $20 billion valuation, founded in 2008. They have more hotel rooms than all the hotels combined twice over. It's a shift in thinking. It's a shift. It's understanding the people out there, the young people out there. They want to actually go live with somebody. They want to get to know them. They don't want to be in a huge room by themselves hiding. It's a new generation out there. And whoever understands it moves forward. So here is another example of, there was a prediction made in 2015 by the car companies saying that I think by 2020 we'll have 500,000 electric vehicles. And here comes a technology company, Tesla, and they open for orders. Within, I think, a few weeks, they have 300,000 orders where people have put in advance and saying, I'll buy this car, even before the car has hit the production line. That is disruption. And today, Tesla, if you go to Silicon Valley, it is a status symbol. Everybody who's anybody has a Tesla, and they're going to come to India now. So this is the thing I want you to remember the most, is that when disruption happens, a lot of stress happens. And either we can be scared of it and fight it, or you take it as an opportunity and open the doors to the very fear that we have. And I think the best way, and the people that have moved forward are the ones, it's scary as hell, but you jump anyway. And you have to make unusual partnerships. You have to work with people you wouldn't otherwise have. You have to listen to 20-year-olds who weren't even born while you were getting your PhD and take them seriously. Okay? So we have to do very unusual things to be able to be successful. So in our company, I always say that you hire people half your age and twice as smart, and people half your age are twice as smart. So you have to believe, you have to drink your own Kool-Aid, and you have to believe that. So with this background, I want to say that's the background into which Singularity University was formed. And it was, the idea was that how do we work in this world of ever-changing technologies? We have to keep up with them. By the time you graduate in 4 years learning one technology, the technology is obsolete. So how do you keep up with what's happening? This is Ray and Peter, who are the founders of Singularity University. That's the first graduating class of Singularity University. And it's in front of the building where they study, which is in NASA. And in California, in Mountain View, California. And this is how it started. It's two guys, a tech nerd and a marketing czar coming together, and who are crazy about space and coming together and saying, let's do a university. And that's how it started. It's not just about technology, but how can technology solve humanity's grand challenges? Technology is a tool. Technology exists. It's a horizontal. It's no longer a vertical. How do you use it to address humanity's grand challenge? And I'll go through, this is something, SU and Peter have come on. What are the 6 Ds of Exponential Framework? Just a bit. First of all, everything is going to be digitized. I still remember in '92, we had meetings with Steven Spielberg and all these kinds of people in Hollywood, and we came up with the CD technology, DVD technology, and then we said we should digitize content, we put it on it, so in one DVD you can have 10 different languages and all this stuff. And they walked out of the meeting and they said, we'll never digitize content because you can copy it very easily. Analog content is difficult to copy, but digital is very easy to copy. We will never do it. But guess what? It happened anyway. And every movie is in a digital form. I mean, even the CDs have gone away now. Everything, you stream it, you watch it, everything is digitized. And it is scary as hell, because the moment it's digitized, I mean, you're seeing now on YouTube, people take a music and they play with it, they change it, and they put their own voices. There is room for fooling around with your content the moment it's digitized. But it's happening anyway. You might as well take advantage of it. And it's very deceptive. You don't even see it coming. When things are digitized, when things happen, you don't even see who the new YouTube stars are, because it's sort of the person who does the best remixes becomes a YouTuber. Vidya Vox, who's again, Vidya Vox and Shankar are our Inc. fellows, and she's a phenomena on YouTube now. It's deceptive. You would have never guessed, you would have never known, okay? And then it's disruptive. You have no idea what hit you, but it hits you anyway. So there are some things that are important. Why this disruption is actually great. First thing is that it democratizes access. A kid living in a village has same access to information as somebody going to the best university. In my generation, we felt that we had to leave India to go somewhere to study this, but now anybody from anywhere has access. And think of all these companies, okay? They did not even exist more than 20 years ago. The oldest of them all, the granddaddy of them all, which is Google, started in 1998. Just think about it. I remember Sergey and Larry giving a presentation on a stage like this about this tiny company that they had. And Susan, who used to work for me in Intel, came to me and said, do you think I should leave Intel to go work for this startup that's starting in my garage? What do you think? And I, like an idiot, said, don't leave. But thank God she was smarter than me and she left. And that's Susan Wojcicki, who runs YouTube now. And something like Facebook, I mean, the guy is not even born when I left India, And so all these people are now thought leaders. And I have to learn something from them. If I fight them, I become obsolete. So all this, Snapchat, 2012 it started. And my son just told me that he says, Mom, you're too old, you're using Facebook. Like it's sort of like you're passé. If you're cool, you're on Snapchat. By the time I figure out Snapchat versus something, I'm just finally on WhatsApp. So it's sort of like, that's about where I stand. But life is changing very, very fast. And the next thing is this dematerialization. Think of all these things. How many of you remember having all these gadgets? I remember having all these gadgets. It's all in my little phone. That's it. And demonetization, this is something we are very familiar with, is that everything is going to go cashless. Everything is online. We are going back to the world of barter. That's what is happening. So very quickly, some insights. The only constant is change. And the second thing is either you disrupt or somebody else will disrupt you. You stand still, you're dead. And the third thing is that your competition is no longer a large organization. It's a little kid sitting next to you who you're not taking seriously. That's your competition. And finally, your mindset matters a lot. A couple of things I want to leave you with. One is that, Peter wrote a book about bold and abundant, is that either you come from a shortage mindset or you come from an abundant mindset. If you come from a shortage mindset, you're worried about everything. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. If you come from an abundant mindset, you say, you know what? The world is my oyster. I'm just going to go out there. And it's important to have that abundant mindset. So I want to end with, I told you that there is one thing we have that a machine can never have. And this is Andy and Gordon, many years later, much older than they were in the first picture I showed you, laughing because they built a company that stands for integrity, that stands for success, that stands for being iconic, and they go to bed happy at night. They're giving away most of their wealth for science and technology and for environment, etc. Can we be in our 70s and 80s and laugh? Can we go to bed feeling good? Can we keep our humanity intact? And when we make all this money, all this stuff, yes, there's going to be 1 billion people left out of this, but would we be generous enough, humane enough to take care of our culture, our music, our dance, our 1 billion people who are not able to be in this curve? Can we do that? And when we do that, our humanity is going to save us and we'll always be fine. I want to end with a video clip. Andy Grove passed away recently, and when he was honored, he was very severe Parkinson's. He couldn't even talk very well. But even in that, this is one of the last things he spoke before he died. His thought was not about himself. It's about humanity. And that's the only thing that's going to save us.
One item, food for thought, as we sit here and go through what each of us have done, our colleagues have done, my contemporaries have done. Let's remember that millions of young people who had the misfortune of being born in the wrong national boundaries are going through all the horrors that Ben described. I had to. I made it. Let's try in a little way to help them make it.
Let's try a little bit to help them. Even in that condition, that's his last thought. And if we can keep that humanity intact, I think we are all fine. If we can take care of our youth, if we can take care of our culture, if we can take care of those who can't be with us, and if we can take care of them, I think we'll just be fine. And that is being exponential. Thank you.